There we go.
Got it.
And Corla, could we get the closed captions?
Yes, thank you, Paul. I forgot the recording it, enable auto. Yes, I forgot to record project review. So, and I didn't turn that on either. So thank you for that reminder.
All right, well, welcome everybody. I'm glad to see everybody. Just as a reminder, as Corla's mentioned and you heard on there, the meeting is being recorded via Zoom. So you're being recorded, be careful what you say. And after the meeting's over, we will post the video of the meeting to our website and also to our YouTube page. So anybody that missed it or wants to go back and check and see it. So I'm really happy to have everybody here. And just for the record, I think I'm gonna, again, I'm just gonna do a roll call so that we can see who's here and who's not and make sure that to confirm we have a roll call. So I'm obviously here. And when I mention your name, just say here. So we have you. So Corla.
Here.
Don. Yep, I see your hand. Paul Webb. Brad Heron.
Here.
And just to acknowledge, I saw Paul's hand, yeah. Matt, we see you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Angela?
Here.
Mandy? Tina?
Here.
Sam? I saw your lips move, you're muted, go raise your hand. You're here, okay. Margaret?
Here.
Perfect. All right, so that's a quorum. I know that Robert said he wasn't gonna make it, and Nicole said she might not make it because she's on a bicycle trip. So I think that's pretty much everybody, but if anybody else shows up, we will add them in there. All right.
I think Eva said she was going to be late, Fred.
That's true. That's true. That's the person we're missing. Eva, yeah, she's going to pop in and out. It's her daughter's 9th birthday. So hopefully we'll see her. Thank you. Okay. So now that we have that, everybody's seen the agenda, and do we have any questions about the agenda, or can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. This is Margaret.
Yep.
I'll
Second?
second.
Tina, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it appears to have passed unanimously. Thank you. All right. Next order of minute is to approve the minutes. And I think everybody saw that Mandy circulated her minutes for both May and June, or May and June meetings. Looked to me to be her stellar job, but does anybody have any questions or comments on her minutes? And if not, can we have a motion to approve the May and June minutes?
I can make a motion to approve the May. I was not at the June, so if we can approve them separately.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's start. Okay, we'll start with May then. Okay, we got a motion, and will somebody second that?
Second.
Thank you, Sam. Any questions or comments on the May minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Appears to be unanimous. Any noes or any abstentions? Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, and how about the June minutes?
I'll motion to.
Okay, Tina,
approve.
motion approved. Second, Sam.
Margaret abstains.
Okay, but first we have to see if we have any. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the June minutes? Okay, seeing none. Margaret's going to abstain. Everybody else, time to vote. Anybody, all in favor?
Yes. Aye.
Okay. Is there any other abstentions? Okay, so that passes. I think. How many do we have? However many we have with one abstention. All right. Board officer reports. I'll start off with the president report. Things continue to be good, and that's really has little to do with me, but has to do with all of you. Everybody on your committees have been working hard. They've been productive and moving projects forward. You know, we have a project we'll review today, and I appreciate everybody's contributions. And I just feel, you know, I see us involved in community, and I see us, making a difference. So, I mean, some of the things I think I mentioned last time, we went to the Happy I was invited to what, the initial opening of the Montrose Hotel that we approved several years ago. It was a really nice event, and I think that really turned out well. And you know, I just think we're doing good. So anyway, the president's report is short this time. Does anybody have any questions?
Can you give any news on redistricting? Do you want to save that for non-agenda or later on?
Well, I can just answer that now. I mean, redistricting continues to move on. I don't know why they haven't scheduled one here, maybe because I'm here, but I went to Pacific Beach recently to their planning board meeting. It's interesting, I guess I should say that. I've been to Pacific Beach, I've been to Midway, I've been to Ocean Beach, I've been to Mission Bay, I've been to Mission Beach. And so I've seen how a lot of the different planning boards actually work in action. And I think we do pretty well. I'm quite pleased. You know, they're just interesting to see how all the different planning boards interact with each other and how they do it. And I think that we actually have a pretty good collegial group, and we have contributions from everybody around the board. So we're doing well. On redistricting, we're going to start our reaching out to specific districts, and they're going to schedule 9 district-specific meetings. So the redistricting commission will go to District 1, 2, 3. We're District 2, so that one you'll get. There'll be notice of that soon. And I think that we're going to, because the census data is going to be so late, we're going to try to start drafting at least some general maps based upon some preliminary data that we have as of August. So obviously that'll be subject to change, but there seems to be good participation thus far. So.
And the census, do you still don't have the census data? Is that still maybe September?
Yeah, there's still the census data probably won't come till the end of September. And so we just we just discussed it at the last redistricting meeting that it'd be a better process to try to move it forward a little faster and at least get some general maps. And it seems, you know, sort of the part of the presentation is like District 3 around Balboa Park, Hillcrest, North Park. I mean, that district's 24% too large. So it's obvious that district has to shrink. District 2 is 3 or 4 or 5% too big. So it's going to shrink a little bit. And then some of the districts, like District 4 is probably 15 or 20% too small. So there's some kind of major changes you can start to make based upon those, because you know those districts are going to have to change. So any other redistricting questions? All right. And I guess that I have not seen Joe yet. So
Joe's not going to be here. I knew
okay.
that. Sorry.
Okay. So I guess we have 11 that are here,
yeah,
and 4 that are not so far. And Eva may join us. All right. So Margaret, do you have any report you want to give?
No, I concur with everything you've said. I'm quite pleased with the committees doing their due diligence with the community. I attended a couple meetings this week. Mandy did a really good job at getting some park and rec updates. We had an amazing traffic and transportation meeting. There's so much that we are doing as a team to be heard with on a city level, and then just really listening to the community and the wants and needs of our immediate attention of planning board. So I'm pretty proud of the planning board this year, really addressing and getting stuff done within our subcommittees. I'm thoroughly impressed, and I see some improvements with the work we're doing. So keep it up, and I still need to have a long range planning meeting, hopefully next week, to get some real big ticket items on our radar for planning purposes. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to reach out to the board for big ticket item ideas that I can put on the agenda, and then we'll report back to the board. But good job, everyone. Definitely seeing some good teamwork, and let's get it done. Thank you.
Good job, Margaret. Good job. Brad, do you have any reports that you'd like to give?
I have nothing to add at this moment, but thank you.
Corla, anything from the treasurer's point of view?
I have a treasurer's report. Robert Tripp Jackson had a big birthday. and he requested donations to the PLA and the PCPB. So as a result of Robert turning 50, we added $435 to our bank account.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Okay, so that deserves a round of applause, everyone.
Does it not? That was really something. Yeah. So that was really nice. And so our balance is $693.93. And we're waiting reimbursement from the city. Got all the invoices in and all that stuff. So we're just waiting for our $500 stipend for reimbursement for last year. So we'll be rolling in the dough.
I might have to order pizza if we ever meet in person.
Right. Got big money there. It was a lot of fun at Robert's party.
Or we're all having 2050.
Yeah. I know. Robert just needs to keep turning 50 every year. It'll be our fundraiser, right?
He's 50 every year.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun at that event. And I think that was great of Robert to offer up the PCPB and the PLA as donation opportunities. So very awesome.
Yep. All right. Anything else, Corla?
No, just non-agenda when it comes up.
Okay. All right. Then Mandy, as secretary, is there anything that you wanted to add?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll go to non-agenda public comment then. So Tracy, go ahead. You can start.
Yeah. Hi again. I hope you guys are having a wonderful July and trying to stay cool and not sweating to death like I am. But I have a report from the Commission for Arts and Culture. As always, there's really exciting news that is happening almost every month. So I wanted to share some with you guys. So the City of San Diego Commission for Arts and Culture announced 174 funding awards for fiscal year 22. That was more than $7.7 million that's going to be distributed to nonprofits that make meaningful impacts to communities and expand access to the arts and culture throughout the city. And almost $500,000 of that was awarded to District 2. And I'm going to post a link to the full list of all of the awardees this year. There are the Creative Community San Diego Awards and then the Organizational Support Awards. So you could see, you know, which organizations are getting it. But I also wanted to kind of give a shout out to the fact that there were 16 of those organizations in the Ocean Beach, Point Loma, and Midway area that received almost $400,000. So that was pretty good. And the fact that these people are, you know, following the protocol and filling out the application, and, you know, we all know how tedious like city applications are for anything. So I really just wanted to give a shout out for, you know, all of these organizations. But again, I'll post the link to the full list in the chat. And then secondly, I don't know if you guys remember me mentioning the initiative last year called SD Practice, where we got a huge donation and we were able to purchase artwork from local San Diego artists for the city art collection. That has actually come to fruition. We purchased the artworks and they are currently going to be displayed in 2 different locations, one at San Diego Art Institute in Balboa Park and one at Bread and Salt, which is closer to the Coronado Bridge. They're going to be exhibited there from July 10th to September 5th. And I think it's 50 in one place and 50 in the other. And the really great thing about this is once they leave that location, they're going to be distributed throughout the city. So, or you know, throughout the county and city to like libraries and, you know, places that are for the public. So this is a really great opportunity to see all 100 of them before they get dispersed. So I'll also post that information in the chat as well, so you can get more information. So that's it for me for arts and culture.
Thank you, Tracy. Does anybody else have a non-agenda public comment?
I
do. Corla?
Yes. The first thing is I sent it out to the committee or to the board. The mayor's new housing plan is out. And just as a comment, I want to know exactly who did that. They did this housing update plan before and it was done by Host Compliance. And if it's done by host compliance, I don't trust the numbers. But there's no mention of Airbnbs that I could find in this report. If anybody else read it and had a comment, I'd be interested in discussing. And then my number one thing I want to talk about is Paul Grimes has been at work again for us. And he has been working on our website to combat all this bot business that's going on. So if you'll notice a change in our contact links, it's really not listing our emails any longer. He's put links in that will take you to our emails. So in this way, he believes that we shouldn't be getting these spam emails and this bot stuff going on. So I'd like to really thank Paul Grimes, who is not here, but he does a lot of work for us. He minimally charges, mostly donates, and it's just really nice to have somebody looking out for us like that.
All right, well, thank you, Corla. I'll note that Coda is here on behalf of the mayor's office, so maybe he'll mention that in his government report.
Thank you.
All right, any other non-agenda public comment? All right, seeing none, let's go to government reports. And Coda, I'll let you go first since your housing plan got mentioned. You can tell us what the mayor's office is up to.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Coda Zeiser, District 2 Community Rep for Mayor Gloria. The one item I did want to chat about was the new housing package that we rolled out just this past Monday. It's called Homes for All of Us, a place for you in San Diego. It is essentially about 12 policy points that's intended to promote and incentivize the building of affordable units. I believe you were discussing the researcher who is part of it. I have yet to receive a briefing on this. I have it scheduled early next week. And so I'll be able to provide better information at that point. I hadn't heard anything about ADUs being included, or sorry, not ADUs, Airbnbs being included in that. So I can follow up with you then as well to get you some specifics on how we're going to be approaching that. But yeah, it is 12 to 13 policy points. I'll put a link in the chat so you can check out the press release. And essentially it's intended to incentivize affordable units and affordable building. Estimates show that we need to nearly triple our housing production annually over the next decade to meet the growth of San Diego. A few top line items and kind of the ways we want to get creative with the way we're approaching development is housing at city facilities, housing on underused commercial sites, and obviously housing in transportation corridors, areas that make sense, really. And so again, I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can check out the press release online and do a deep dive. And then I'll be getting the briefing next week so I can come back with a little bit more information for you guys then. But that's it for me. I'm more than happy to take any questions, or if you guys have questions on the housing policy that you want me to take back, I'm more than happy to do that as well.
Any questions? Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, excuse me, what mechanisms are baked into this plan for assuring that these new units will be affordable? I've seen some, for example, the Haven on West Point Loma Boulevard has really tiny apartments. They're the mini units that are proposed in a number of places. Those start at $1,600 a month, and that's not really an affordable unit.
I agree. So I believe it's going to be based on AMI. I think this is much more focused to various income levels as well. I don't have a specific percentile that they're shooting for, or a total number of units that they're going to be shooting for. That's one of the questions I got asked in a separate planning group meeting as well. So I can circle back with you on what the criteria of what affordable in this situation means.
Well, not
80% to 120% of the area median income is what the working groups are shooting for.
Not just what's affordable, but are we talking about Section 8 grants or certificates or?
No, this isn't.
Ceilings?
No, so it's not going to be like federal or HUD programs or anything like that. This will just be run-of-the-mill units that we're going to be, putting into the housing stock.
So they're going to be market rate, in other words.
Yeah. But more housing stock is what we're shooting for.
So what Paul is saying, that you're not doing affordable housing, you're doing market rate. Let's reiterate that.
Okay, guys. I think I don't want to get into the weeds on this one. So let me circle back with you guys.
What we care about.
Yeah, I know, guys. And I don't want to incorrectly state this. And so I can follow up with you guys on that particular question.
I have a question, and maybe more of a statement. I just saw in the news that minimum wage earners cannot afford a 2-bedroom rental Is that true? And how would this address that?
I saw that article as well. I think it was like a minimum wage worker, a full-time minimum wage worker can't afford a 2-bedroom rental anywhere in the United States, in any major city. And so we just need to add more housing stock and more just units into the housing system. We just do not have enough homes for the amount of folks that are in San Diego currently. We're seeing almost a middle-class flight where our teachers, our firefighters, police officers are often having to either leave San Diego and commute an hour each way, or just leave San Diego altogether. And we hope that the introduction of new units into the system will help combat that.
And I also saw that median home prices in San Diego are $750 now. I mean, that's
$750.
Ridiculous. I mean,
I know. And any young family that's, so I'm a renter in North Park, and I'm eyeing a move to another place, somewhere in North Park, preferably as well. But there's literally nowhere that I can afford at this point. And so, yeah, I mean, home ownership is not even on my radar whatsoever.
May I ask a question? Because you all keep going to all the different planning board meetings and providing the same statement that every single neighborhood needs affordable housing. There is plenty of affordable housing that's not being utilized right now. How are you getting your statistics to state clearly that every single community needs affordable housing? And where can one person like myself, who is not a fireman or a police officer or the general population you're stating, it's pretty much 3 different industries that needs this affordable housing, can look up exactly the stock that's available in the neighborhood to assess your statement that every neighborhood needs affordable housing and that the housing stock is needed? Where are you guys getting your stats?
So I think that was a follow-up to kind of similar to Corliss' question. I can get you the info on where who did that research for you guys. But this is just something that every community needs to do their part in. A lot of areas like D2 are already built out, but we need to add density to be able to increase and lower the housing. Sorry.
Right, but you need stats to prove. You need stats to prove that statement.
Yeah, and again, like I said, I will get you the info on who the researchers were. I have not yet received a briefing on this. This just got rolled out on Monday, and so I'll circle back with you guys to get that information and that data.
And then this has been circled information for at least 2 years now that we have not had access to. So I think it needs a prompt attention.
Okay, I didn't know that you guys hadn't had access to. We've only been in office about 6 months, so I can circle back with you to get you guys the data that we're operating off of.
So Coda, if you send that information to me, then I will forward it and distribute it to the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Mandy had a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had more of a statement. Again, why is it that we're subsidizing housing when a lot of this has to do with people not having a livable wage? People not being paid the proper amount. When are we going to have those conversations and, look at that rather than the taxpayer having to subsidize housing because we have these private corporations who will not pay a livable wage?
I agree with you.
So why, again, if the feds and the government will not sit here and have livable wages for people to access housing, you talk about that study earlier about 2-bedroom apartments. In the entirety of the United States, no one can afford housing under the minimum wage. No one can. So we really need to start looking at the employers in the region. Are you paying a livable wage? Are you paying the true cost of having that worker? And I don't think that the subsidization of that should be put on the backs of the taxpayers who are already exhausted by what they're having to continually pay out for failed policies and procedure. And you come here and you tell us, hey, we've got the answer for you. And it's only in development. And I think that the city needs to look at other alternate ways and hold these employers accountable so that they're not having people living off of, slave wages, basically, to live here. And no one can live here. My husband and I, he's in the military. We make a substantial amount of money and it costs a lot to live here. Yeah. We need to ask those questions. How much subsidy, where's the line where we're going to subsidize people and you know, keep their quality of life without othering them. But again, the taxpayers are the ones held accountable, not the employers who are not getting a livable wage. And so we need more options than just build, 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 build. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you, Coda.
I agree with you, Mandy.
And my emotion is not at you. You're just the conduit. And
I fully know what my role is, and I am the messenger. So I know what my position is, guys.
All right, thanks, Coda. I guess we have a Cameron. Why don't you follow up with your question?
I was just wondering, Coda. My name's Cameron. Live here in the Point Loma area, but Mayor Todd Gloria has one vehicle at his hand. So something he could do immediately to free up housing stock, and that's get rid of Airbnbs. You could literally add another 10 to 20,000 units of available housing to our city right off the bat by getting rid of Airbnbs. Yet the city council seems to be going the opposite direction in their policies than the way the mayor goes. So I'm wondering, how does the mayor feel about Airbnbs, and what can he do to actually curb them, other than the sham proposal that our council member put up a few weeks ago, or a few months now, I guess. So thank you.
Yeah. Within this package, I can get you guys more clarity on the Airbnb situation. Our position right now is to work on the enforcement mechanisms that go into the ordinance that was passed, that as you cited, by council a few months back. This gets rolled out. I think it takes effect early 2022. So over the next few months, that's our responsibility, is deciding the lottery system, deciding the good actors versus the bad actors, and the enforcement mechanisms that go into that.
All right. Well, thank you, Coda. We appreciate you coming, and we'll look forward to getting that follow-up information.
Yeah, you got it, Fred. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Speaking of District 2, I see Monique. So from Jen Campbell's office. Monique, do you want to give us an update from your perspective?
Yes. So I'll quickly go over some things that have happened this past week. The state did provide the city with $8 million for the OB Pier. So that is great. So they could go ahead and move forward with repairs. There's a community forum on July 29th on proposed water and wastewater rates. I believe that they are looking into raising them. So if you guys want to learn more, provide your feedback, I encourage you guys to take part in that community forum. I could also provide the link where you could sign up. There's also the opening for the CPPS funding, which closes on July 30th. If you guys know of any nonprofits who are looking for funds, encourage them to go ahead and apply. I could also provide that information for you guys too. Kendall Frost, the Marsh Reserve, they're taking visitors now. So if you are looking for something fun to do around the weekend, every second and fourth Saturday of each month, they will allow visitors and participants. So if you guys want to go ahead and stop by there. And also this week, the Parks and Recreation Centers have fully reopened to normal hours of operation. So that is good news. Hopefully it does stay like that. And is there anything else that you guys have for me that is about? Yes, Mandy?
I do. I'm wondering why you have not provided an update to our community about FAMOSA in the last few months, or why we were not provided notice other than the city when you and your staff, well, you and your council member, Jen Campbell, she knows that this is a hot button item in our community. And we have continually advocated for this spot to be open space. And the disrespect that the council has provided our community is shocking, and it's not going to be tolerated much longer. I am very upset that we are not being respected and receiving the communication from our representation. The role of the council member is to represent her district as well as communicate those changes to her district. And the fact that this big issue item that has been a continual hot ticket item in our community is just pushed off with nothing more than a notice from the city that we received on a Monday night before the council meeting. There needs to be more transparency and communication from District 2's office. And that is all I have to say. Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay. All right. I saw Tina's hand, so why don't we have Tina go, and then you can go, Margaret.
It's okay. Thank you, Let Margaret go. Go ahead, Margaret.
All right. Go ahead, Margaret.
Oh, I was just sorry. I'm driving at the moment. So I just wanted to make sure, and this goes for Todd Gloria's office too, that I appreciate both of you, Todd Gloria's office, District 2, Jen Campbell's office, coming to our meetings, but do you really report back to what we say to you, to these individual, you know, city and council leaders, or do you just come to these meetings to report what we want to hear or what, you know, the most recent news is? Because District 2 has some really, as Mandy mentioned, hot topic sensitive items that need immediate attention. You know, the community, again, and I can't stress this enough, voted for Jen Campbell to represent us and for us to be heard. You know, and I just feel like, you know, both offices have represented attend our meetings for updates, and then that's it. Like, I seriously don't feel like you take, you know, our input and our feedback back to the table to these leaders and address these issues. And I really hope that you do. And I hope that you provide, you know, the people that you work for these updates that need immediate attention. That's all I ask. Thank you.
All right. Monique, do you want to make any comment on your communication with Jen Campbell?
We do report back. I report back after every meeting. I let her know what the committee is reporting to us and asking about us. Regarding the FOMOSA, that unfortunately didn't get to my desk until the day that you guys probably heard of it. I don't know what happened there. It was probably just something that it just didn't get into my desk. I wasn't aware of it, or else I would have brought it to you guys and brought it to your guys' attention as well. As you probably have already read that her statement, she does support affordable housing, and she believes that the housing crisis is very important to address, and having these 78 affordable homes put into this area was more important. And also, I believe that you guys already know the situation for the park space. It was dedicated as a park space back in the 1950s, but the city council back then did reverse that policy. It was no longer dedicated as a park space.
Can you provide us that document?
Yes, if you guys need some more information, I could get that to you.
Oh, and I would also like to get a response about the city or someone from the council member staff coming to present on the pocket park and the options to potentially fund it in 1 or 2 phases as well.
Yes, and we are working on that. I do have a briefing with the department, so that's why I have not actually provided much more details than that, other than I'm looking into it because.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Monique, on the pocket park, I if you could get us some concrete information, I can get you on the agenda for the September meeting, and you could provide that. But Don, I saw your hand up. Did you have a question for Monique?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on FOMOSA. Monique said she didn't know anything about it until like Monday before it happened. There have been suspicions, questions, inquiries, whether the Brown Act was followed on this meeting. And I wonder if Monique can look into and provide any information that the Brown Act was complied with. Also, our council member is the council president, and she sets the agenda. And the item came up 3.5 hours later than scheduled. So people who wanted to attend or listen in on Zoom, they're forced to tie up their day for 3.5 hours. Our board has held at least 10 meetings, committee meetings, full board meetings on Formosa Canyon. And every meeting that I've been at or been told by others, the community is very much in favor of keeping Formosa Canyon as a passive park. It's important to the community, to the district, but apparently it's not important to our council representative. But I would appreciate any confirmation by you that the Brown Act was complied with.
That's not up to my attention, a violation of the Brown Act. I do know that the city council and the city clerk, they do follow all Brown Acts. They monitor it very closely. So if there was any violation, they probably would have said something, and they probably would have not moved forward with the item. I could double check to make sure to see what's circling around in the neighborhood so we could go ahead and squash that. But to my knowledge, there was no Brown Act violation, but I could definitely look into it.
Excuse me, Fred, can we pivot this for a second in the sense of, I read something somewhere about the comment made about having to stay available all day for city council meetings on Zoom or to make a comment. I read somewhere that someone's trying to streamline that so that there would be times given where you wouldn't have to spend your whole day doing that. Monique, do you know about that?
I've heard about that too. I don't know where it's at in the process. I think somebody did request it and they are trying to look into it to see if that's something that they can bring to the public.
You know, Dawn, some of those concerns, Corla, you are right. It's in the Point Loma OB Monthly. I saw an article about it, and basically it's going to give an option. So if you call and you want to make a comment on an item, they're going to have a callback. So you put in your phone number. And so rather than you waiting for your turn, when it comes time for the comments for that agenda item, the system will contact you back and call you back so that you can make the comment. So you don't have to sit there on hold and wait and waste your day and waste your time. So I think that is coming, and I don't know when it'll be coming to city council, but I think that's a great benefit. It'll help encourage more participation.
Yeah, and just on that note, I've actually been involved in some city meetings where they've done that in the past, where they had a long speaker list, and they actually, you give your phone number and then they call you when you're like 3 people out, so that you're already in line. So Monique, if you do that, I mean, I've seen that system work when there was 100 speakers and you're like 57. So they call you when 54 is up. So that way everybody's in line and stuff moves forward efficiently. So just my suggestion. Tina, did you have a question?
I actually don't really have much to comment because I think everybody has commented what I said, but I just want to ask her, what time are we going to circle back to the issue at hand? Like, as far as like, the Famosa, I don't understand why she keeps saying, oh, I didn't know about this, and yet it's getting put on the agenda, but we don't know about it. How does she know? Or if she does not, how does the team at city council know? But yet we don't know, and we're supposed to be a planning board to be able to submit our issues. And so she keeps saying, I'll circle back to everything. So what's the time frame when you circle back? And then about the Famosa slew, and then also the employer's wages, when you're going to circle back to that. Your comment to most things today has been you're going to circle back. So what's your time frame?
Regarding, so I just want to clarify, when I say it didn't end up on my desk, there is docketing staff work directly for the docket, putting things on the agenda. There could be a lack of communication there, and sometimes it did not get to my desk. Other people may have known, it was not brought up to my attention, or else I would have notified you guys that it was coming.
But it's kind of weird that we have to find out by going online. And
absolutely, and I can work on that with our team to make sure that anything that does come to my communities.
But ma'am, let me interrupt you really quick. We only had moments to notify our community to be on board, and most people work, and so they can't be in attention to be at this meeting if we don't know time frame. And then of course this is really important.
Notice. So most of the agendas for city council come out on a Wednesday. It has to be noticed 72 hours in advance of the meeting, and that's usually when everything is public and that we are also notified as well. So like I said, 72 hours before the meetings happen, that is when the public will know and our office will know as well, as the 72 hours before the meeting happens.
All right, Monique, I think I have one last question here from Cameron. So Cameron, did you want to ask Monique a quick question?
I do. Monique, not so much a question. I just wanted to correct you. You misspoke when you said the city council in the mid-50s overturned and didn't make it into a dedicated park. That's actually illegal for the city council to do that because it was a dedicated park. It was actually a 1956 referendum that was by the San Diego voters who voted not to make it a dedicated park and turn it into a designated park. And then the city council parceled out the parkland, and which eventually became Bill Cleator Park, parceled out the part of the Famosa Canyon. There's another part of the parcel on the corner of Famosa where it dead ends at, and the school district. But I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that the city council does not have the authorization to do it, nor were they the ones that.
Well, thank you, Cameron. I think that actually is interesting because we have the Zoom meeting recorded now, and
only 0.5% of our total housing stock in the 107 zip code. And so it's really a drop in the bucket. 5 acres of parkland.
Cameron, you're kind of breaking up.
So having additional parkland would go a lot further in our community, which is dramatically lost in parkland, than it would for a small drop in the bucket for the affordable housing. But mostly I just wanted to make the statement, make sure we all understood that the city council wasn't the one that made this decision. So thank you very much. Have a good day, guys.
All right. Well, Monique, we appreciate you coming. I know that might be a little rough today, but I mean, it's important to stay in touch with us because, you know, that's the way the community feels that they're getting their input and that you guys care about their feelings. So I appreciate you coming. So I'm going to go over to Cole Reed. Did I see you here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for having me, by the way. I'm the new district representative for Senator Adkins, replacing Miller Saltzman. I'm covering the coastal communities of the district. For my very first presentation, or my very first update, I just want to give you some information about the budget that was recently signed into law by the governor on July 12th. San Diego is so far receiving a little over or close to $260 million in money allocated towards projects and different programs throughout the city. So I just want to go over some big budget wins right now for San Diego. To start out with, we have more than $100 million. It's planned to be allocated over the next 2 years to address homelessness in the city. The city of San Diego will receive $27.3 million in its first year. I apologize, that $100 million is actually going to the San Diego region for homelessness for the continuum of care. So it's a little bit different than the city, but the city is getting a large chunk of that money. Next, we have $50 million it's supporting San Diego's pure water infrastructure project to allow us to have recycled water infrastructure, and hopefully that'll give us a more sustainable source of our water supply. We also have $8.4 million that are going from state funds to help renovate the OB Pier. $2.5 million towards the Billie Jean King tennis court in Point Loma. Then we have $1 million supporting a gun violence restraining order program through the San Diego City Attorney's Office. Next, we have $18 million that are going to go to support the San Vicente pump station. That's a way of enhancing renewable energy storage. It allows for hydropower to be stored to where we could use that during times where our electrical grid is under stress. There's $35 million that will be used to replace Scripps Oceanography Research Vessel, $30 million towards the UCSD Hillcrest Medical Center. And then lastly, I want to point out that there's $30 million that'll be allocated towards local government grant projects for sea level rise planning. So that's all I have for the report today. I will post my email below. Feel free to ask me questions. And I'll also post a list too of the recent budget wins, because I think it would just be helpful for y'all to read it if you choose to do so.
Any questions for Cole? All right, well, Cole, I'm just gonna make my comment that I like all that stuff, but in particular, you know, any funding that we can get for the OB Pier, I like that. And I used to serve on IROC and the water board. So the pure water project is more important than a lot of people think. So I appreciate you guys getting a significant amount of money for that. So Matt, did you have a question?
Yeah, cool. I was curious, do you have any updates on where this bill is working its way through the Senate in terms of I'm sorry, I forget the bill number, but it's for the 85th percentile rule for setting motor vehicle speeds?
If you give me that bill number, I could get that information for you.
Okay, will do.
Be fairly quick to find for me.
All right, thank you.
Of course.
And I concur with Fred. I like the fact that you're going to help with the OB Pier renovations.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Cole. Welcome to your first meeting.
Thanks for having me, folks.
Yep. Tracy, do you want to give us an update on OB?
Yeah, hopefully I won't have a sneezing fit in the middle of it. Okay, so the last meeting that we had we had a couple of projects on the docket, and the one that was the most widely talked about was the inn at Sunset Cliffs. So surprisingly, the planning board actually denied their proposal to move the seawall and, you know, rebuild their deck and the whole deal. And I thought it was kind of surprising because the OB planning board had actually approved things like that in the past. So, and we also, and we also denied a lot split, which was also a little surprising to me. So, so just, you know, I think there's a little bit of change happening on the board, and I'm not exactly sure where it's going to go, but we'll see. And then we did have a very long conversation about our CIP projects, but we ran out of time. So we do have a list of, I think it's like 10 CIP projects that we're going to try to submit, and they're quite different than what we've normally submitted. So at the next meeting, we're going to finalize that list and get it approved or not approved or whatever. And then we'll submit those ideas. So again, if you guys want to participate in that, definitely attend the meeting next time and let us know how you feel about our CIP list that we're generating, because it affects all of us. Absolutely. And I think that's it for the planning board. Just brief update from last month. Oh, there is a transportation subcommittee meeting that's going to happen next Monday. And the 3 items that we're going to talk about on that, if anybody is interested, is we're still having a lot of conversation about establishing an Ocean Beach parking district. We want to potentially ask the city to do a feasibility study to have a series of roundabouts placed on West Point Loma Boulevard instead of just one roundabout that they're going to put in at Bacon and West Point Loma. We actually think that if they're going to do one, they should do more to make it make sense. So the transportation subcommittee is going to discuss that and decide if we want to ask the board to vote for it or look for a feasibility study or whatever. And then there was also some conversation about having walkable Newport, which would be to shut down a small portion of Newport to cars. So those are the 3 items that we're going to look at on Monday. So if you guys have any opinions or thoughts on those, we would appreciate your input.
Hey, Tracy, really quickly, are you guys part of or discussing the random street vendor situation that's going down there? I know I attended some Pacific Beach meetings recently, and they're fighting against those vendors in front of Cannonball on the boardwalk. And do you have any updates you can provide for that?
Yeah, so, you know, Mission Beach and Pacific Beach and the Embarcadero and Balboa Park, we're all struggling with a huge uptick in vendors, unlicensed or regular, you know, whatever vendors, pop-up vendors, let's call them. And Ocean Beach is definitely struggling with it. CODA is completely aware of everybody's problems across District 2 and other districts. And he said that he is taking photographs so that he can show the other council members the problems that we're having here on the coast. Apparently, you know, our problems on the coast are different than, you know, other districts. So the other council members aren't really understanding what a severe issue we're having at the beaches and tourist locations. So if you have pictures or anecdotes or, you know, anything that you can send to CODA that would definitely help, you know, help our case is what I would say, just so that the other council members understand like what we're having to deal with. But yeah, Ocean Beach is fighting. I mean, we are, you know, the town council is fighting, and you know, we continually hit up our representatives and ask them, hey, you know, what's going on and what's happening. Last we heard is, you know, Council President Campbell is working on it. That's what we heard. So, you know, who knows where it is right now. I think a lot of it falls on the city attorney as well. Just as a personal opinion, I think the city attorney has a lot to do with this. And I honestly don't know where her mindset is right now. So anyways, yeah, vendors, boo.
Andreas brought that up at CPC, and we don't get, the beach communities don't get a lot of support from the other planning groups on that and Airbnb, because they do not have the problem, and you're right, they do not understand it.
Well, yeah, and that's what Pacific Beach is crying about too, because they want to align themselves with Ocean Beach and Mission Beach. So I hope that there's some sort of, fight amongst the local boardwalk communities. I think it'll do more. I think it'll be more productive if the multiple communities work together in the fight.
Yeah. Hey, Coda, just out of curiosity, do you have a number of people in Ocean Beach sending you pictures of this situation on a regular basis?
Yeah, I get like dozens of emails on a weekly basis. So I represent districts 2 and 3. So I get all of the coastal communities and then all of the downtown, uptown areas. District 3 is starting to see a big surge in them, as well as downtown's kind of reopening. So yeah, OB, Veterans Plaza is probably my most pictured kind of examples, I guess, along with the Mission Beach Boardwalk on Oceanfront. So yeah, that we need to combat that pro advocacy with educating council members with how dire of a situation it is in our communities.
So if you're receiving everything, what are you doing about that?
So our policy team's collecting all of that info. We are sending them along to Parks and Rec, PD, City Attorney's Office to show them why aren't we enforcing even some of the most recent laws like encroachment or public right-of-way issues. And then these are the examples that we're going to, and these are the examples we'll use when this comes to council and showcasing.
And what is your time frame for
I think Monique just put that in the chat. So I think Monique just put it in the chat that it's anticipated to come to full city council in September.
We are anticipating bringing it to the full city council in September. Hopefully everything does go smoothly. Like Tracy did mention that some of this is coming from the city attorney's office as well, that she needs to put her input of what can and cannot be done. So if everything is smoothly.
I'm just asking because we have a lot of community members asking us, particularly because we're on the PCP board, like, what are we going to do? What can we do? And they want to get their on Nextdoor and on the other communities saying, I'm trying to do this. I'm putting it on Nextdoor. I'm doing it on Get It Done, but nobody's doing anything. And so what are we going to do to help them? And then we're trying to tell them what's our answer. So I want to know, you're telling me in September they have to wait till September for feedback.
September is when it's going to be voted on by council. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, what I usually tell people is that, our electeds are aware of the problem and that they are accepting any, photographs or stories or whatever, and just continue to do that and, get the people involved. And, you can complain about stuff all you want, but if our electeds don't actually see the evidence of it, then they're not going to have any awareness. So,
I concur with you, Tracy. That's what my point was, that the people have to say something.
Yeah,
because you can't make a change without commenting. But they are asking how much comments are going to make a change. Right. That's my point.
Tina, this is Margaret. What I would encourage you to do with anything else when you're talking to neighbors on Nextdoor is be that leader in providing them with the steps to submit their complaints. The city council, along with these city leaders, can't do anything if we're not working together to provide the footage, the video footage, the complaints. The neighbors have to do their part as the same as we do with complaints. It has to be documented, it has to be presented and submitted. So just on Nextdoor, when you're talking to neighbors, as a Pennance Community Planning Board member, share the information on how they can submit their concerns and their suggestions until it actually gets taken to city council. They can do something. It's just a matter of submitting their suggestions or requests through the proper outlets. Correct me if I'm wrong, Coda.
Margaret, and so you got to encourage people to be persistent. They got to stay on top of it. And I think that Coda and Monique, at least on this issue, I mean, they've heard these complaints, I know for months, but they've been moving forward. And if we can get the city council to take some action in September, especially considering they're dark in August, I think that's that is that's sort of a picture that they are trying to move the ball forward. So we appreciate that.
And Fred, I can share with you Mission Beach's letter that they sent us just yesterday, taking their position and kind of the examples that they're using to showcase how bad it is.
Yeah, thank you.
Does anybody else have any OB questions that I can try to answer?
Nope, thank you, Tracy.
All right, you're welcome, guys.
All right. Did I miss any government people? Is there anybody I missed out there? I think I got everybody.
Fred, Andrew's not here, but he did send an email. And if anyone is interested, it's he's talking about the County Emergency Rent Utilities Assistance Program. I have a link for that, as well as small business relief. If anyone's interested in that, please email me and I will send you those links. And that was Andrew's pretty much report.
Okay.
From Nora Vargas, I'm sorry, from County.
All right, Joe's not here, so who's in charge of project review? Brad, great.
Yeah.
Glory days. Glory
Easy
days.
for you to say.
We have the Nimitz Crossing project for Kathy Reiser. So if you can go ahead and present that.
Yeah, so the Nimitz Crossing, most of us are probably aware of that location where Sunshine Liquor used to be, there on Voltaire, just before the bridge. The applicant is looking to get the, as you can see on the agenda, neighborhood use permit to convert the 12,000 square foot of commercial spaces down below to residential use for 12 units. There was a change in policy at the city that allowed them to do this and for an interim time frame of, I believe it was 10 years. So the comments that we could address here, just a moment, let me get this active here and let me look at what I was going to talk to you about. The project's been completed for a little while. So, but in the whole time they've been trying to do this, they've been trying to rent these units. And if you've driven by there on Voltaire, you know they're vacant. So because of that, they've been trying to do outreach. We are short of housing. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to do this temporary thing. And in doing so, they're going to be spending up to, I think it's $1.3 million to do this conversion. So it's they're not doing this lightly. And they're going to be strategic in doing this. They're going to be doing incremental changeovers, and they're still going to be trying to rent some of the units there with that 3 in the back. And I think that there was a 9 across the front or something like that. And so they will be potentially signing a lease with somebody if they can find one. So Kathy Reiser and Andrew Luce are going to be speaking to this. Rudy Medina is also here. He's the project owner. So Kathy, I believe that you spoke at our at the project review meeting. Oh, and just to we forwarded this to the board with a vote of 4-1.
In favor?
As I remember. So anyway, Kathy, please.
4-1 in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Pardon me while I try and figure out how to run a PowerPoint on Zoom. That's not my usual thing. Thank you very much, Brad. I appreciate the intro and the recap of what we did. As you said, this is the Nimitz Crossing project. Pardon me, are you seeing my PowerPoint?
I can see it.
Yes. Yes.
So it's a neighborhood use permit for an interim ground floor residential. As Brad said, you're probably all pretty familiar with where it is. It's bounded by Voltaire, Nimitz, and Las Lomas. And that's a picture of the completed facility.
Kathy,
it was built with
your cover page is all that's coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So somehow your PowerPoint's not started. We're just getting the cover sheet.
It's frozen, Kathy.
Okay.
If I can make a comment after teaching online, I found difficulty when pressing the present button while sharing screen. that often leads to what we're kind of seeing here. So my recommendation might be just stop your actual presentation and go back to kind of the preview. That should be able to share with us, if that makes sense.
Kathy, I think you just have to scroll it manually.
Okay. Okay, are you now seeing a photograph or are you still
yes,
seeing?
Yes, now we see it.
Okay, well, I hope it now scrolls as we go.
You can go page by page. You missed the map.
Okay, well, I think the map, I think you all pretty well know where the map is. The project was built with ground floor commercial and 24 units on the second and third floor, of which 2 are designated affordable units. The parking is in the basement for the residential, but on the first floor, in order to serve the commercial, there are 12 parking spaces, which you'll see in the plan in a minute. Okay, now tell me, did it change screens?
It did, yes. It did.
Oh, good, we have something. So this is just showing that the active leasing opportunity that has been going on. They have been trying for quite a while to get that done, and it is their preference to do commercial. They put a lot of money into the shell, anticipating that it would go commercial in terms of the extraordinary mechanical systems and electrical that you would need for instance, restaurant uses and things like that. So as Brad said, it's not taken lightly to turn around and make those things become studio apartments. The plan would be to generate up to 12 studio apartments. Although, as he said, if a commercial tenant came along, they would love to have them and they would simply have less of the studio apartments. This has been, the city recognized that this has been a problem for a long time. And in fact, it's a nationwide problem where there are mixed use projects with commercial on the first floor and no takers. And so in 2018, they began working on a code change that allowed for this interim ground floor residential use for a period of up to 10 years. And it says that no additional parking is required for that interim use, but we happen to have 12 spaces to serve up to 12 apartments. This is all being processed as a process 2, which you're probably familiar with, is a publicly noticed staff level decision that's appealable to the Planning Commission. This is the existing first floor space. You can sort of see the commercial suites that they had planned to have. This is the parking area for it and the driveway to it. And this is what it would look like built out into 12 studio apartments. And one of the reasons for studios is that it creates a broader array of price points to be able to offer to the community. The upstairs units are all 2-bedroom. And so obviously we can come in at the lower end of the price point with studios. And here's just some renderings of what the spaces would look like. One of the interesting things is that there are these really beautiful patios on the street side that would be available to the people who rent the studios, because those were intended to be available to the commercial users. And this is just showing how a studio might be arranged. And another one, again, you've got the great glass on the front because it was set up to be a commercial site. We went around and looked, and there are a couple of projects, I think within maybe half a mile of ours, that have essentially the same dilemma. This is Upper Voltaire with the apartments above and the what I call see-through first floor. And again, Upper Voltaire. And then the Famosa building, same idea with the unrented first floor. That. I'd like to have Rudy or Richard or Andrew add anything they need to, because if there's any questions, particularly about the economics of doing this conversion of the project, they're going to be able to answer that better than I can. So Rudy, do you want to take over?
Sure. Obviously, this wasn't our first choice. We built the project specifically to have first floor retail users occupy the space. We had pre-COVID, we had some traction with tenants, and including Cesarina, who's leasing an older space down the street. They were going to move to our building or open a additional restaurant in our building, along with multiple other potential tenants. Andrew Luce spearheads that for our company, and after COVID, all of those tenants went away, and we waited, and we thought that once the pandemic was over, that the retail sector might recover strong enough to start seeing some offers. But so far, 18 months in, we haven't been able to lease 1 square foot of space, and it causes a issue for the existing residents, because anytime you have vacant storefront, you have the problem with the homeless using it as alcoves to sleep. They break our windows, which cost thousands of dollars to replace. The fact that the vacant units attract a lot of undesirable activity causes issues with the existing residents that are up above. And so while this isn't our first choice, and economically it's a massive hit to the building, we have no other choice but to try to repurpose the space and move forward with the residential use, at least temporarily. And like Catherine said, we're phasing in that process, and we're going to start with 4 units and see how that goes, and continue to market the space for retail users. But we don't know how that's going to go, and so far the indicators haven't been good.
All right, thank you, Rudy. Andrew, did you have anything to add?
Well, just following what Rudy mentioned. I mean, Rudy and I are both, 3rd, 4th generation Point Lomans, San Diegans, and the goal was to put retail there. And even prior to COVID just exacerbated this. It's what we're seeing. We're not seeing in the tenants that pre-COVID. I mean, they all went away. I mean, we'd like to see retail there, but at the same time, this is not taken lightly, as Rudy mentioned, or Kathy. This is a big endeavor for us to make this into studios.
Okay, well, if you guys can get out of the screen share, then I can see the people with their hands raised, but I do see Mandy, so I'll let Mandy go first with a question.
All right, thank you. I want to ask you, how much do you charge? Are these all market rate?
Well, no, we have affordable units upstairs.
And how much, what is that range? How much is that per month?
That's dictated by the Housing Commission.
How many units are affordable?
2 units.
2 units. Out of how many?
24.
24. So you have an entire floor of retail space that you have stated that has caused a dilemma. And earlier, and Coda, hey, our staff is not on here. I think this would be a great opportunity to expand your affordable housing at this location. We already have the existing infrastructure. I am very confused as to why the city would allow market rate housing when, again, we're in an affordable housing crisis. So yeah, I have an issue with the city picking and choosing who the winners and losers are and who gets to change the rules. But I would really like to see more than 2 affordable housing. That's, you need to do your part as well. So I'd like to ask, how many of these new units will you be having as affordable housing?
The affordable housing.
And what is affordable?
The affordable housing mandate is you build a unit and it's for perpetuity. So those units will be affordable for the life of the building. And so this is a temporary use. We don't know how long it's going to last, and we don't even know if we're going to have, if we're going to do the entire floor affordable. So to the management of that and how that's worked out is through the entitlement process. We bought the site already with the entitlements in place for the 2 affordable units. So we didn't process the entitlement, and we're just following the guidelines that have been dictated by the city. And like I said, the affordable, when you build an affordable unit, it's for the life of the building. And that way the economics are carried forward over, 50, 60 years, not a temporary use.
And then another question I have, will any of these units be Airbnbs?
No,
or do you allow that practice in your?
We don't do Airbnb.
Okay.
So
I would like to see more affordable housing at this site. As we've stated earlier in the call, this is a widespread issue. And the fact that the city continues to issue permits for projects that are market rate, especially on existing infrastructure, it's a win-win for the community right here. If they would put affordable housing and hold these developers and these private property owners accountable for this crisis that we have. So those are the only comments I have to make. Thank you.
All right, Mandy, thank you for your comments.
Hey, Fred, can I throw my hand in the mix? I can't get on video right now, but can you put me in line?
I'll put you in line, but I'm going to go to Paul next.
I think Matt had his hand up first.
Okay, I'll let Matt go first then. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, thanks. So yeah, I was curious if you could speak more to the timeline. You said that it sounded like you would do four unit conversion first. How long would you expect that to take once you started?
It would take at least 3 to 6 months, depending on, the availability of the, right now we're having the same problem the restaurant industry is having, is we can't find workers. So depending on the availability of the trades and the scheduling of the construction.
Sure. And then just one follow-up to that is like, do you have a staggered plan then of like, say you start this first 4 conversion, at what point would you decide to start converting the next 4 if they're still unrented?
That's an economic decision, and I don't have that answer right now, but I mean, we're not going to wait forever. We have to monetize the building, and what the lady was talking about. We have a small building, and so the 2 units are commensurate with the size of the building. If you had a 100-unit building, that would be equivalent of 18 to 20 units. And so the way the affordable housing compliance works, and what happens is a lot of developers opt out of the affordable and they pay the fee in lieu. That's probably happening less and less now because they raised the fee in lieu, affordable fee, which you paid into a fund. They raised it so that building the unit or paying the affordable fee, there's no real benefit to paying the affordable fee. We're starting construction on another affordable housing project of 36 units, and 4 are designated affordable for perpetuity up near Bankers Hill. And so when we have the opportunity to comply with the affordable housing mandates, we choose to opt in and build the units. That's just our company policy, because I grew up here. My family's been here 100 years. I want to see more affordability, and it's really economics. You have to have a number of market rate units, a certain number of market rate units on a percentage basis carry the affordable unit. And so that's really the way it works. There has to be incentives, otherwise they can't get built.
All right. Paul, then you want to go ahead with your question?
It's not a, excuse me, it's not a question as much as a comment. I was on the board when the Famosa building, the Famosa project came before us. I was on the board when the Upper Voltaire project came before us. I thought they were terrible projects then. I think time has shown, I thought they were terrible projects because this ground floor commercial hasn't worked at cities all up and down the West Coast. Alan Jones was the chair of the Planning Commission at those times, and he had a vision for I mean, not the Planning Commission, the Planning Board at those times. He's also one of the architects of the community plan, which got zoning, commercial zoning for these properties in this area. And he had a vision that there would be a vibrant pedestrian-oriented community with retail on the ground floor and residential above. I never saw that. I would like to see something like that. You know, the Chase Arena and that area, they're expanding, and then it's very popular and it's very commercially successful, but I'm not sure that that can be replicated here. Now, that being said, I understand the problem here for the developers, but our task as a planning group is to make recommendations consistent with the community plan. The community plan shows this as commercial. The zoning is commercial zoning, which does allow for residential on the upper floors, but I cannot see us undercutting our community plan and zoning designations, although I recognize that given the changes in state law and our city government, the plan and zoning don't seem to count for anything anymore. I might be able to support this project given the economic hardship that this is bringing on if they went through the community plan amendment process and changed this to a residential site, got it rezoned for residential. But this business of waving the magic wand and calling these units interim, once these are built, these are not going away. They're here forever. And we should face that and deal with it on that basis. That's all I have to say.
All right.
Just to comment to that, the permit is considered temporary and you have to re-up it every 10 years. And so, you know, the things change. And if the retail, you know, if the retail business comes back, I mean, there would be nothing that would stop us from converting the units to retail. It's a lot more economically favorable to have the retail on the first floor because the project was built to service that use. Otherwise, it would have been a totally different, you know, development.
And I understand that the interim zoning regulation says that it's a neighborhood use permit that's only valid for 10 years. But the fact is you're going to put in $1 million+ into these places, and I just don't see them going away. I think it's magical thinking for us to have the belief that they're going to disappear after 10 years or even 20 years.
It's a better use because of the housing shortage you guys talked about a lot than to leave it empty for perpetuity.
And I'm not arguing with that. I just think you should have gone through the community plan and rezoning process.
All right, Margaret, you don't have your hand up, but you got your place in line. So did you have a comment you wanted to make?
I do. And you know me, I don't really support a lot of developers destructing our community and going outside the community plan, as you state, Paul, or, you know, but I gotta put this out there. Rudy Medina does a lot for our community. He is a local, you know, developer, real estate guru in our community. And I can vouch for him when I say this. He cares and has put in lots of his own money to beautify our community in many different ways, and has been approached about other developments in our community, listens to the community, which is a first. A lot of developers don't do that. And he's done so. And I think we have to take that into consideration too, that he is a Point Loma native. He cares about our community, and you know, he's not going to do anything to our community that's going to, you know, ruin where he lives and where he grew up and the money he has invested recently to make improvements into our community. So I wanted to make sure that I made that statement for you, Rudy, and I appreciate all that you have done for our community in so many different ways. And I support this because we have to get these units filled. It's a beautiful project. It has improved that area. There's many, you know, changes with the Voltaire Bridge coming our way in the future that is going to, you know, be beneficial to this property. And I really think we should help local and support some of these decisions. So, you know, we all know it's tough to go through amendments to the community plan. Let's get real. And you know, he is a Point Loma native, and again, really supports our community. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. And just, obviously, unless it's a tie, I guess I don't have a vote, but just for the record, I have known Rudy for many years, and I concur with what Margaret said. And I actually know where Rudy grew up, which is just up the street from where this project is. So he could definitely walk from the house he grew up and to this project.
I live there now.
Yeah, he lives there now. Okay, there you go. Okay.
I just renovated it.
Okay, well, there you go. So, Cameron, do you got a question?
Yeah, I just want to say that, Mr. Medina, I'm generally supportive of the project. I'm just going to point out that you currently have 24 units. By adding 4 units, that'll give you a total of 28 units, which means that you should have at least 3 units as affordable units in your complex. So it might go a long way to help grease the skids, is if you said out of the 4, one of them would be designated affordable. That would bring you within compliance to the 10% rule, and that would also, you know, help with our affordable housing stock and get an extra 4 units. Thank you.
And also, Rudy, I hope you understand that the comments are not directed at you personally. I do appreciate your contributions to the community. It's just with regards to this project.
No, I totally get it. It's a hot topic. But like I say, when we have the opportunity to build projects, we opt in and we build the affordable units. If you polled all the developers, especially if you held the big guys to the same metrics where they get, you know, they'll build 200 unit projects and they get out of 100% of the affordable. That's why we have the crisis when we have the opportunity to build, and we build neighborhood. I mean, that's where, you know, that's our sweet spot. And we're, you know, we cherish and value the neighborhoods that we go in and the history of the neighborhoods. And we try to stay within the framework of that neighborhood. We're not trying to put up a 200-foot building or do something that's way outside the box. And when we, you know, enter into these communities, we really take it to heart, the concerns of the people that live there, especially this one, since my family's been here for so long and I just live up the street. So, you know, it's close to our heart, and we understand that crisis, and the housing crisis is economics. You know, we have to get more density in some of these areas that are on these transit corridors. And if you create vacancy, I can tell you the affordability will come back. That's the issue. We don't have any vacancy in any of the housing stuff.
Okay. So can you repeat what's needed here?
From the city, we are processing a neighborhood use permit, which is a process to staff level decision appealable to the city council, to the planning commission, to utilize a section of the code called interim ground floor residential. And we have to make the findings for an NUP and for the special findings for the ground floor residential. And that's all what we'll be submitting to the city. And just to let you know, from a process standpoint, we've submitted our plans and we've been through 1 round of plan check with the city. And we are just on the point of the verge of going back in with our responses to the questions that they've asked us. And that'll include the Housing Commission as part of that distribution, along with the planning department, the long range folks. And then of course, all the typical engineering, landscape, that sort of thing.
I would like to make a motion to support your request.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yes,
Don,
I'll second.
I think I saw Don's hand first. So Don is second. All right, we got a motion to approve the neighborhood use permit. Margaret.
And if I may, just consider having what Cameron mentioned, the three house affordable, whatever it was that Cameron mentioned. Consider that, please. That would definitely take care of the housing stock that's needed for our community.
I have comments, and I think Don has been raising his hand.
Don, you haven't asked a question yet, so you're muted though.
Don, unmute.
You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I do have comments. The city is way behind the times here. This made sense to have commercial on the ground floor and units above. I mean, going back to the 20s, that's what the store owner would actually live on the second floor over the ground floor. But the city is way behind the times. There is not a lot of demand for retail. Shopping centers are going bankrupt. There is demand for housing. Let's think back just a couple years. Sunshine Liquor was on this property. There were no housing units there. They were just vacant storefronts. It was just a rundown. This board voted to allow Sunshine Liquor to move. Sunshine Liquor has disappeared. Coda Zeiser, just before earlier in this meeting, told you that we needed housing. The city is trying to find ways to get more housing. This gets more housing units. There's just no demand. Rudy has a condo project that dates back to 2014. I forget the name of it. It's on Rosecrans. It came before our board as a kind of a courtesy. There were comments on how it could be improved. Rudy Medina came back the very next month. Those comments and improvements were made. It took forever to find any kind of retail tenants for that. And as we heard from the city, Voltaire is improving. It's becoming a walkable neighborhood. The bridge, which I'm a volunteer on, is going to help that. Several years ago, I approached the storefront owners on Voltaire, and Andrew Luce, representing Rudy Medina, said, yeah, I will help contribute to the cost of a bridge improvements. And he kept his word. There was no quid pro quo. To my knowledge, there wasn't anything that he ever had to come back for. He built this project that was to the city code. But the city code is out of touch with reality. And I applaud him for his concern for the neighborhood. He is a good neighbor. And I support this project.
Okay, Corla, did you want to comment?
I do. We saw this project in project review, and the 4-to-1 vote. My vote was to move it to the board. It wasn't necessarily to support it. The positive about this project is that there's already parking. If they had parking for the commercial, so there's already parking there, so there's no impact there. This will be market rate. And what I see as a potential problem is the pandemic we're getting better. Things are going to open back up, and maybe commercial will be needed. And if that commercial space is needed and it's not available, then I see that moving into the neighborhoods. So I agree with Paul. I don't think it'll come back. It is against the community plan, but the city has made, Kathy's put the code change where the city changed that. And there's incentives for commercial. I don't believe any developer is doing all this stuff out of the goodness of their heart. They have to do this to make money. It's their business. So commercial, affordable housing, there's incentives, and the city has now made it so expensive to buy out of that the developers are finally starting to take advantage of the incentives to provide some of that affordable housing. And that project you're referring to, Don, is Bellamar. It's down the street from me. And that's all $1 million plus housing. There's no affordable there at all. So none of that was addressed at that time either. And thank you very much. That's all I got to say.
All right. Do we have any more comments, or Sam?
Yes.
Sam, go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I wasn't familiar with the particular location. So today I went out and I actually went to the site. I walked up and down the sidewalk, and I was really impressed, first off, with the quality of the building and the fact that so far it's been able to take care of itself in spite of our pandemic, et cetera. But the point I want to make particularly is the more this goes as a vacancy, it isn't going to help the project. It isn't going to help the people living there. Nothing will happen that will be good as long as we put impediments toward having this occupied and utilized and not vacant.
I have one more comment, Fred, in regards to Corla.
Go ahead.
I just want to state again the projects across the street who are also struggling big time to find businesses to rent remain vacant. Sam, you couldn't have said it any better. We have to do something to change, whether it's residential or business. I mean, the property across the streets tell it all. They've been sitting there dormant. So why have more properties sitting there dormant on Voltaire? Let's get them filled up.
Well, I think if you drive around Point Loma, you'll see plenty of vacant first floor retail space. So and given the pandemic, I think it's going to be a long time till it's filled. And I generally agree with the comments that leaving that space vacant is not doing anything for the community. So that's my 2 cents. So with that, are we ready to vote?
May I call the motion?
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. We have a motion to approve the permit. And so all those in favor, please raise your hand. I will count them. I have got, and for the record, I'll kind of read them out as I count them up. I got Mandy, Don, Brad, Matt, Angela, Tina, Margaret.
Me, Sam.
And Sam. I got 8. Okay, 8 in favor. All those opposed? I got Paul is 1. Any abstentions?
Me, I just don't know. I just can't decide.
All right. All right. Rudy, congratulations. It has passed 8 to 1 to 1. And that was a good discussion about the community. So I appreciate that.
Thank you all very much for your time. We appreciate it. I want to comment to Bellamar. We did put the retail there. That's on Shelter Island and Rosecrans. So that's Main and Main. I think there's 60,000 car count there. And those tenants are all struggling. The Hard Corner, which is the best suite, been vacant for it's going on 2 years now. Sotheby's went out. And so if you can't fill that space in Point Loma, I don't know how you're going to find a retail tenant, because the other tenants in there we've given them rent concessions and all kinds of other concessions to keep them going during the pandemic. And it's a really tough battle out there to be a retailer and make it in some of these neighborhoods.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Rudy. All right, good discussion. All right, we are moving on to our 2 informational items, and the first one is sort of an update on the status of the CPC. So Corla, can you give us that?
Sure. Well, also, Andrew Luz, thank you, everybody.
Brad, did you want to make a comment before we moved on?
I was just there was just sort of an update regarding the project review. Wasn't necessarily anything that was action item or on the agenda. It was just sort of an FYI on a project that we had approved. They came in. Is it all right if I just
go ahead.
of describe it? Hey, thank you. Okay. Hello, everyone again. Let's see. You may remember, and I'm trying to, there was a project down on Rosecrans. Some of you may remember that didn't have any parking, had 15 units. It had converted. It had been sort of bootleg project, but some of the residents that were in there had come and said how much they liked being in the place, and you know, they had converted one of the units to handicapped accessible. And anyway, we ended up approving the project to go ahead with the conversion. But since then, or the process, they have, one of the things that we had objected to was that this is where the nail salon is, down there on Rosecrans, right on the bus line. And it's a 2-story thing. And we talked about, we didn't like the neon signage, and we wanted blade signs, and we liked the, you know, the changing of the presentation and the benefit to the community. Oh, one thing, all the ground floor commercial is fully rented. So that one's a plus. But what we had an objection to, what they did is they had someone who was basically not qualified enough to be able to push this project forward. So they made a change to an architecture firm who helped them with some of the issues that we had had objections to. One of them specifically being that they'd had a trash container. It was covered, but basically a dumpster, but it was positioned in the public right of way. And we had had some, it was off on, I'm not sure which cross street it is right off the bat, if it's Dickens or one of those, but
I think it's Emerson.
Is that true? Nicola?
I think it's Emerson Street.
Emerson, okay. Anyway, it was something that we were not pleased with, but nevertheless, at least they had put a lid on it or whatever. So anyway, what had happened with the advent of this more skilled, knowledgeable group that came in, what they ended up doing is they took some of the commercial space and moved it in and captured space inside the building to provide parking for this handicapped unit that was in, and also to be able to put this offending trash inside the building. So to free up the encroaching public access and to clean up the elevation and you know, kind of unsightliness. So they did this with and the reason that they came before us is that they're asking for a variance for a curb cut to allow this property to access to this garage. And the city had some objection because the curb cut was a little bit too close to the corner. So there was sort of an FYI thing. I kind of contacted Joe briefly to find out why this, because I thought that we voted on this. Paul and Corla, maybe you could provide more, but I guess we thought that we didn't, I guess they weren't applying for a variance again, but this was part of the process. But anyway, Joe had it on the list of, if anything, just to provide the information on the ongoing improvements on what was transpiring there, and just to let people know. So anyway, looks like Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, my recollection is we didn't do anything on this because the board had already approved it.
Right. We had voted on it.
We said, yes, we're supportive, but you don't need anything else from us.
Right, which is probably why it wasn't agendized for any kind of a vote. So thank you, Paul. I appreciate your more clear memory.
Yeah, it was also nobody sent it to me as an agenda item. So that's
right. And I asked, Joe said it to me as something, and I'm like, I don't see it on the agenda, but so he just wanted me to present the ongoing sort of saga of that building.
Well,
So
that's good. That Brad, I appreciate that, because I mean, I think that that's it's a good little story about how our committees, you know, on things that may not be a vote, but we're still involved in projects and different things that are going on in the community and staying involved. Go ahead, Paul.
This may actually come back as a vote, because one of the dilemmas that the architect has is he can violate the Americans with Disabilities Act, or he can do the project that works for the trash enclosure and the public encroachment and the right-of-way. They're kind of mutually exclusive. So this may end up coming before us again.
That'd be
what he's trying to get the city to do is indemnify him against any claims under the ADA.
Well, I don't think it'll come back because we voted to approve that. Paul, you weren't on the committee at that time. It was whatever year that was, but we voted to do that. He basically has illegal units, and he wanted variance to make them legal. Yeah. They're being used as a commercial, they've been used as residential, and they weren't legally allowed to be doing that. And this entire board voted to.
And I get that, Corla, but my recollection was that he was trying to get the city to give him some sort of waiver or indemnification from the requirements of the ADA to protect him against an ADA lawsuit in the future. If he can't do that, he may have to come back and do something else.
Possibility, yeah.
Or maybe he just doesn't do the curb cut and reconverts the space back to the commercial space and just has enough room for the trash.
Exactly. All right. Well, I appreciate the update. We're gonna move on, and if it comes back, then we'll deal with it. So, Corla, do we have an update for CPC?
I sent the agenda today to everybody for CPC is on Tuesday at 6 by Zoom, and there was a motion by the park committee, and I voted yes to support their motion to have the city look at the stuff. You know, these parks people are on it. They know what they're talking about. They've done the numbers, and I voted that we support their efforts. Not any specifics, but that we support their efforts in working with the city on developing more open space and parkland, etc.
I think that's consistent with the position we've taken, so thank you. Okay. How about an update? We've talked a lot about Famosa in questions, but Cameron, you wanted some time to give an update on Famosa Canyon. Are you here? Mandy, get him, poke him.
Can you guys hear? Oh, there we go.
All right, hey, Cameron.
Hey, my phone was dying. I plugged it in and then it came back up and down. You know how it is. Welcome to modern technology. So on Tuesday, July 13th, Councilmember Campbell and the Housing Authority, also known as the City Council, just for people's edification, so we know the San Diego Housing Authority is also the City Council. They just put on a different hat when they're dealing with the San Diego Housing Commission. So on July 13th, Councilmember Campbell and the Housing Authority, also known as the City Council, voted to allow the San Diego Housing Commission to enter into exclusive and private negotiations with Bridge Housing, effectively shutting the community out of the process. In addition, they authorized a $910,000 loan to help them with the process. It still has to go through an RFP. It does not mean that it will or will not be developed. It just means they're entering into exclusive private negotiations. Like I said, that blocks out the community. I was advocating for the Housing Authority to retain authority over it because personally, I wanted some oversight over the Housing Commission, but that's just my opinion. I would like to note that at the San Diego Housing Commission meeting where they discussed entering into the exclusive negotiations in November 2020, there was over 210 people who took the time to phone in, write in, and call in comments against converting the land and developing the land. In December 2020, when it went to the City Council, there was over 180 people in the queue. So many people had called in to go against the proposed development that it actually crashed the server, not once, not twice, but 3 times before Councilmember Campbell pulled it permanently from the docket. She put it back on to address the Brown Act potential violations. I've done my homework on this. This is basically what happened is the agenda for the July 13th meeting went up on July 6th. On July 9th, it was amended with the Famosa update on it. And that didn't necessarily trigger, so I get notifications that didn't trigger a notification update. So on Monday, so it was within 72 hours. That's why we had the late notice. And even then we had the maximum number of people who could give a comment to give, because since the last time it was on the docket, Councilmember Campbell had spearheaded an initiative to limit the number of people who can speak on any given issue. And I believe it's 8 people. So that's your council member, making sure that she's watching out for your community, making sure that community doesn't give their inputs, and making sure that she doesn't listen to her community. On a more personal note, I have met and sat with her several times over the years. She is well aware at the importance of this piece of land to the community, and that the community wants to be involved in any long-term decisions. Was said 5 acres of land in the Famosa Canyon. I am standing by for any questions that you may have, but the bottom line is the housing committee, i.e. the city council, has allowed the housing commission to enter into exclusive negotiations with Bridge Housing. So more to follow as that goes through the RFP and the other processes.
All right, well, I don't know if anybody has any questions. We talked about it a lot tonight, but I'll just say, you know, editorially, that it's obviously that Jen Campbell knows it's an important project to the community, and people care about it. And so we've had more than one meeting where there's been lack of proper, you know, or adequate notice. And you know, we hear a lot about transparency and in government, but this just creates mistrust and a lack of transparency in one person's opinion. So
I agree with you 100%, Fred.
Don, go ahead.
I would like to add something. At the meeting, it really showed a lot of bias or intolerance, or whatever you want to call it, towards the people that were concerned about Famosa. Every other agenda item, people were allowed to talk 2 minutes. On this agenda, they shut us off at 1 minute and 30 seconds, and I felt that that was really unfair for City Council to do so.
Don, you're muted, but you can go ahead if you can unmute yourself.
I'd just like to reiterate that this is a very important issue to the community. The community has showed up en masse at our various meetings. The council president put this on the agenda. It was done in such a fashion that the community didn't know that this meeting was really going forward. The council members' own aide did not know that this was going to be on the agenda until a very late hour. So the word did not get out, and that's unfortunate.
I concur, Dawn. That's what I said earlier.
Okay. Thank you, Cameron. All right, we're going to go to our first action item, and I guess I get to lead this one. This is the question as to whether we're going to be dark next month, and then we're going to have a meeting in September. And so I just wanted to take the temperature, and we don't necessarily have to take a vote. I put on an action item in case we had to, but take the temperature of people as to what they think as far as our September meeting, whether it should be in person or should we continue with Zoom. And I sent the letter out that the city says that we have a Brown Act exemption extension through the end of September. And, you know, obviously I feel, you know, that it's important for the public to have in-person meetings, but I'm also concerned about everybody's safety and, you know, public safety and, you know, actually the safety of all the pictures of the people I see here, or you guys are all very important to me, and then public at large. And I got a long letter, which I guess I could hold up here, and I could read the whole thing, but it's been a long meeting. But this is from Eva, and you know, she is a healthcare provider, and it's very detailed, but talks about sort of the current situation and the rise of the Delta virus and the you know, increasing coronavirus exposure to people that are unvaccinated. And she raises some very significant concerns about whether we have the ability as a planning board to properly protect unvaccinated people in this situation. And so I'm just summarizing it, but I'm saying as a healthcare provider, I think Eva strongly feels that we should stay in a Zoom format until we have a better feeling of the COVID situation. So I'll throw that out and get the comments.
I would agree. I would agree with Eva. We've had a few conversations this week. She actually informed me that there are, she was informed by a colleague that there are 6 children in the Peninsula area that have just been recently diagnosed with COVID. And I believe that we have been able to function and serve our community via the platform of Zoom. And I don't think it's necessary for us to meet in person and become martyrs for our community after all that we do. So I would also agree with Eva's professional opinion that we continue on Zoom until the board feels it's safe enough to meet in person.
Okay, Paul?
Yeah, I agree. There was a graph in this morning, I think it was this morning's paper, that shows the case rate per 1,000 people has gone up 5 times in the last couple of weeks. It was below 1, now it's about 5. Things are changing right now. I would just as soon err in the side of caution if we're going to err at all. Okay. So I just assume not meet in person.
Okay, Corla?
I'm in agreement, and I've been making the environmental point about this. We're all not in our cars and driving, and that's particularly important for me with CPC because we have 54 planning groups that meet and come from far and far away. I'd love to see everybody and give everybody a big hug and all that kind of good stuff, but we're also saving the environment by staying home, I believe.
All right, Sam?
Yes, I just want to make a couple of additional comments. As you know, the Los Angeles County just put in, again, the requirements for wearing masks. And I think there's already mention of the Delta variety. And I think my only concern, I would actually like to have us wait until at least the end of the year. I'm with another organization that has decided to take that approach before they do in-person meetings. And in addition, I'm concerned though with whether our Brown Act exemption is going to bother us, because I think you said it was the end of September, is that correct?
September 30th right now. Yeah, well, and I think that's a good point. I saw that LA County thing too, and I thought, I mean, right, when we get together in person, right, I want to get in person with you guys. I actually want to buy pizza and have a good time with you. I don't want to wear a mask and sit in the same room with everybody, right? That's not the purpose of an in-person meeting. So, Cameron, did you have a comment?
I do. I was just going to say, someone with a pre-existing condition, even with the vaccine, the office I work at, someone who has the vaccine is home COVID with COVID, and people are isolating, and the vaccine doesn't necessarily protect you from getting it. And so he's quite sick. And so I guess he's part of the 5% of people that the vaccine didn't necessarily work on. But more importantly, if the exemption goes till September 30th, I think this would be better served to at least table this discussion until September. Yeah. And, when we have a few months, because we go dark in August anyway. And so, and if the exemption goes till September 30th, I suspect there will be some churn over the next couple months to better inform a decision. Just my thoughts.
Don, I saw your hand up. Did you want to comment?
Yeah, I think it's a positive thing that we are posting the recording on the website. There is boilerplate that comes up, unless anybody gets the wrong impression. The Brown Act requires or allows anyone to record a public meeting. So if you're participating in our Zoom meeting, whatever you say can be recorded by any media group or anyone who chooses to do so. So we are complying with the Brown Act.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to take my position as chair, and I'm tabling this discussion, and we will be meeting virtually in September, and then we'll go from there. Hopefully it's everything's safer by then. So
we're dark next month.
Item number 2, and I just want to say I appreciate everybody's comments, and I appreciate getting a feel from the board. So Paul, the second item up is the review and approval of a comment letter on the San Diego Airport environmental assessment.
Yeah, and you all should have seen the letter. What this is this is the federal NEPA compliance document, the environmental assessment. This is for the replacement of Terminal 1, and it's construction of a new approximately 1.2 million square foot terminal that will have 30 gates. That's an addition of 11 gates over what's there now. Partial relocation of the existing taxiway Bravo. a new taxiway Alpha, which does not currently exist. And I think most importantly for us on one level would be the construction of a new on-airport roadway. It will take all the traffic to the airport off of Pacific Highway over in the vicinity of, North Harbor Drive, over in the vicinity of Laurel Street, and put it all onto the airport itself. So the airport bound traffic, at least in the from downtown toward the airport direction, would not be on North Harbor Drive. And now this project has already gotten its approval under the California Environmental Quality Act. This is the federal action. Not everything in the project requires FAA approval. Those aspects of the overall project are not subject to the environmental assessment. And what I've done is I've analyzed, it's a staggering amount of information to go through. The big thing, one of the big differences between CEQA and NEPA is one of the key tests under NEPA, the federal act, is you really have to explain the purpose and need of the project and the alternatives and how they meet the purpose and need. And the alternatives analysis section of the letter goes to addressing that. I feel that they did not necessarily present all the alternatives that they could, reasonable alternatives that they could have that meet the purpose and need of the project. I felt that they could have looked for additional, might not need the total of 11 additional gates. I thought that they could have been provided in a more phased fashion if they did need that number. And I also felt that they did not look seriously at the use of other airports, specifically Tijuana International Airport or General Rodriguez Field, especially in light of the success of the Cross-Border Express. The use of that airport for international flights in particular could be something that would at least alleviate the need for the total of 11 additional gates. The second thing that I wanted to bring up was air quality. And that's that we can't do much about air quality at the jets. They're going to be spewing carbon out at us as long as airplanes are going to be flying. But the airport really needs to step up its game on its ground service equipment, providing power to not just the new gates, but to any possible remote hard stands so that the airplanes are not running their auxiliary power units. Any accessory vehicles that they have on the airport should all be electric or at least low emissions vehicles. And I thought they didn't put enough emphasis of that. And finally, I wanted to point out that the way they analyze the project, and this is difficult for a lot of people to get, they look at the forecast, and that's how they establish the noise contours. The airport's assertion, and I think it's probably correct, is that the number of flights is going to be the same whether they improve the terminals or not. There might be a few extra flights given the airfield improvements. There might be some efficiencies in the taxiways, but overall, there's not going to be a significant change in the number of flights given the constraint of a single runway. But that doesn't mean that they can't, once again, step up their game in the residential sound attenuation program. There's something like 7,800 dwellings in the 65 CNEL contour. They've only sound attenuated 3,800 of them, and the waiting lists are very extensive. Fred, of course, knows this, being on the ANAC for the last several years. So I wanted to point out that we really wanted to emphasize that they needed to accelerate the pace of that program. And that's all I have to say.
All right, well, before I turn it over, I just want to comment. I thought the letter was very well done, Paul, thoughtful, and issues that I raise at ANAC all the time, including the air pollution that drops on people's heads, and obviously the noise, are issues that completely impact Point Loma adversely, right? We get all the burdens of that, but not really the benefits. So anyway, I thought it was well written and well thought out. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. I try.
Carla.
Yeah, excellent work, Paul. Thank you. I know what you went through to come up with all that. I just have a few comments. The CEQA environmental review, which I'm still upset about, it talks repeatedly about significant unavoidable harm to human life. And I told them then, not to say it now, that's unacceptable. The NEPA stuff, everybody's more concerned, it seems like, with the tourists coming in, having a good experience than they are with the residents' welfare. Comments over and done with. But that all this equity stuff, it's equity about everything. It's cannabis equity, and there's equity, and equity. So there's a push to build affordable housing right there in those areas under the airplanes. And I just, that's not necessarily what we're talking about now maybe, but I just don't see how there's any equity in that. Just because there might be land that might be available and cheaper, what do you just put lower income people in a bad spot or what? I mean, what do you say about that, Paul?
Well, when we look at new residential construction under state law, and much of the sound, the noise regulations really come as much under state law and under the variants that the airport operates under. What was I trying to say? But with new construction, any new construction has to meet the new building codes. And under state law, the new construction is deemed consistent with the noise attenuation required in the airport influence area. So the one thing that it is kind of a cheating on that a little bit, unlike the airport's quieter home program, where they do the noise attenuation and they come back in and test a number of units to make sure that they are actually reducing the sound levels inside the homes by the required number of decibels. Any new construction is deemed by definition to be compliant, and they never come back and do any testing. But that's just one of the vagaries of state law under which the umbrella of which all this happens.
All right, Sam, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment Paul on the letter, but I also wanted to really say if there's any way we can strongly emphasize considering alternatives to the existing airport, which Paul did a good job of, I think we really have to keep that in the forefront. Otherwise, we'll just be burdened further and further.
Okay, Don?
Yeah, I want to thank Paul for summarizing something so complex and very well written. I first set foot in San Diego, and I landed. I walked out of the plane. It was at Laurel and Pacific Highway, and the San Diego airport was 2 Quonset huts. There was parking for maybe 4 taxis. We've come a long way since then. That was in January of 1967. Terminal 1 was not open. Terminal 2 was not open. There was no commuter terminal. There was no a cell phone parking lot. It was another 30 years or so before we even knew what cell phones were. So I'm very pleased today that we have an airport that's more than 2 Quonset huts. The planning for Terminal 2 was abysmal. At that point, we all knew that there should be separate levels for departures and arrivals. That had to be corrected later. People who go into Terminal 2 have to come down to ground level, get their luggage. Then they have to go up a floor, either by elevator or escalator, walk over a pedestrian bridge, come down to ground level, reverse course, cross several driveways to get to public transportation. The planning here seems to be very well done, in my opinion. We don't know what we want in terms of public transportation to the airport, neither does Sandegas yet. And yet this Terminal 1 expansion provides space for whatever option we choose. All
right.
And pardon me?
All right, with that, does somebody want to make a motion to approve the letter?
Well, I'm just going to say that I oppose the letter. I think we're being short-sighted if we do these gates in phases. We've all had the experience of taking a long flight, landing, and then the pilot comes on and tells us that while we're out in the middle of the tarmac somewhere, there's no gate for the plane to go into. And we wait. And of course, the pilot tells us by federal law, we cannot get up and walk around. We must keep our seatbelts on. And we hope that it's maybe less than 20 or 30 minutes just to find a gate. So I don't support the opposition to the 11 gates. I think they're really needed. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, and not to defend my position, all I was trying to say in the letter is I thought they needed to take a harder look at phasing and see if they could not necessarily build them all at the same time, because the increase in the number of flights is going to be spread out over the next 20, 30 years. And we've seen in the last 20 years, we've seen 3 major disrupting external events that have reduced the propensity of people to fly and the number of flights going in and out of every airport in the country. You know, the 9/11, the 2008 economic recession, and now the COVID pandemic. It seems like every 10 years we get a major disruption. So are they necessarily needed to come online all at the same time? That was all I was trying to say. Ask them to look at it a little bit more closely.
All right, Matt, did you have a comment?
Yeah, mine was a question. When we're talking about that, let's see, the project component about the construction of the on airport roadway, would that be contingent upon the plan as it is, or if you put forward, you know, some of these alternatives, such as just renovating parts of Terminal 1, would that still allow for the on airport roadway, or is that contingent upon the expansion?
No, it is not contingent on the expansion in a sense, but in one sense it is. The project includes demolishing the commuter terminal, demolishing the old freight buildings like the Southwest Freight Building, and several other accessory buildings. There's an old terminal from back in the 20s that will be moved. So those things all have to happen for the on airport roadway system, but not necessarily construction of 30 gates, if that answers the question.
Yes, and just one quick follow-up. So then with the removal of the commuter, would they be replacing that terminal or those gates, or would that kind of get folded into this expansion of the number of gates?
Well, the commuter terminal is not currently used, which we all call the commuter terminal, is not necessarily used for commuter flights any longer. It's the airport's headquarters, and the airport will be building as part of this a new headquarters building. You know, one of the things that you see in the evolution of air travel and the airport itself is that there used to be, you know, the 15-seat Fairchilds, and then that went up to the 24-seat Saabs and ATRs, and then to the 50-seat Embraers and Canadairs, and then the 70-seat. All the airlines are upgauging their airplanes, and the commuter terminal was no longer needed. It hasn't been used at least 10 years, longer probably.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to say, I hope the number of flights doesn't increase, because we're pretty much beyond our carbon budget for such things, but hopefully wisdom will prevail here in folks' behavior.
All right, Cameron, do you have a question?
Yes, I just want to make a general comment. I just want to remind everyone that pre-COVID, the airport was at 95% capacity. And although the number of flights may not change, the type of aircraft that can and do fly will be there. We're going to get larger, louder, more aircraft. So to Corla's point, there is a problem with the noise abatement. The problem is that we have some of the highest electric rates in the country. So although I have super Wham-A-Dime soundproofing throughout my house, I can't keep it open I can't keep it closed because I have to run my AC in the summertime. So I can't get any of the breezes to keep my house cold. So I have to run my AC, and now I'm getting $400, $500, $600 electric bills to avoid the noise from the airplanes. And so I do think we need to take a harder look at this and what we're going forward. And again, gently remind everyone, we were pretty close to 100% airport capacity pre-COVID. Thank you.
You know, airplanes are getting quieter. The only reason that will make the contours grow is the increasing number of flights. And that of course is the big issue. But as we can hope that we get more larger and new aircraft, because they are, you know, the 787 that JAL flies right now is a very, I live in the 65 decibel contour. It is a much quieter airplane. I remember the old 727s, which would rattle the windows. The planes are quieter. We're supposed to be getting an Airbus A350 serving the British Air London flight. That's a very quiet airplane.
Yeah, so what's happened as far as what I've learned from ANAC is that, well, ANAC certainly has pushed for all the airlines to get rid of their older, noisy, loud planes and replace their fleet with more modern planes that are quieter. And we had a lot of resistance for that for many years. But with COVID, there's been a large movement to mothball all the old planes. So COVID has almost forced the airlines to get rid of their older planes, and then they're going to come out with new fleets, which should be quieter. They're still going to be loud, but they'll be quieter.
Yeah, and there's a lot of airplanes parked in the desert, a lot more than there were 2 years ago.
Yep.
I agree.
So we're getting late in the evening. Does somebody want to make a motion so we can decide whether we're going to approve this letter or not?
I'll move to approve Paul's letter.
All right, do I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sam. All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand and I'll do a count. All right, I've got Corla, Sam, Mandy, Angela, Paul, Matt. Okay, all those, that's six in favor. All those opposed? I've got Don and Brad, 2. All right, passes 6-2. Thank you, Paul. Perfect. All right, I think the next item is yours, Mandy, to add Danelle Purcell to the Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee. Maybe we could just like make a motion for that.
Yeah, Delana Purcell is wanting to participate in the Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee. I know Delana, she works with me on the Sunset Cliffs Natural Park Council. She's a strong volunteer there. And just to say something about her, she's lived in Ocean Beach since 1954 and the Sunset Cliffs area since 1961. She went to Ocean Beach and Sunset View Elementary Schools and Collier, which is now Correa Junior High, and graduated Point Loma High in 1971. She retired from the San Diego Police Department after 30 years, where she was a traffic officer for her first 4 years. And she's been on the Sunset Cliffs Natural Park Council since 2000. So we voted unanimously to approve her request to participate in the Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee. And I'd like to make the motion to approve her and add her as a subcommittee member.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Don. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
All right, now
maybe you can make this letter go through as quickly.
I don't know. I'm good, but I don't know how good I am. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then I'm going to present the letter. I don't need to read it. Does anyone need me to read it out loud, or has everyone had time to look at it? I'm just going to go ahead and screen share this. So let me, sorry. Okay. Wrong. Hold on one second. Stop share. Okay, so during our traffic and transportation meeting, we ended up discussing the traffic and transportation list that we have been maintaining through Margaret had been maintaining this since 2017. And basically, we came up, we've been going through this list and kind of identifying where's the city at with these problems that we've identified. And we also voted to ask and vote and make which of these priorities do we want to add to the top of the list for the traffic and transportation to work on. And so I'm going to go ahead and screen share now. This is the list of our traffic and transportation needs, and this is how we rank them. We have the West Point Loma cycle track. You know, we're wanting to ask the city to finish the western segment of that. But in the discussion, there was a great discussion regarding Rosecrans, and that is what brought forth this letter. And after posting it, I got a call from Brad today about it. And, you know, I've only been on the board now for a little over 2 years, and Brad was the previous chair of the traffic and transportation. And as he was reading the letter, he was able to state that, hey, we've already asked the city for some of these requests. And he actually, I was able to go back through and I found the letter, and it was done back in 2018. Again, we're in 2021. So I did find those letters, and his concern with the letter was in regards to the request to install a crosswalk at Rosecrans. Due to the level of service at that, he felt like a standard crosswalk may not be the safest option. And so after this letter was reviewed and approved unanimously through the traffic and transportation, Brad provided me with another option that may be more appropriate. And I did want to share that with the group. It's called a hawk type of crosswalk. And it's a signal that basically it's a tool to help make it easier and safer for people to cross busy streets without impeding traffic. I do have a video, but basically it looks like a standard street light. It goes over the street, and then it's pedestrian led. So if someone wants to utilize and cross the street, they select, they hit it, the lights start flashing from the yellow, and then they flash to red, stopping the traffic. And then that allows the pedestrian to cross over safely. And the reason why these were, he presented this is because, again, it would allow for the crosswalk to be created on an as needed basis and not impede all the traffic along Rosecrans. So I do appreciate you, Brad, for bringing that new information to me. And I did want to share that with the group as well. So this was, again, approved unanimously. I'd like to go ahead and open it up for discussion at this time.
Could we see what that looks like again?
Before we discuss it, Mandy, my quick question would be, is that given this new hawk option, I mean, it doesn't seem like we should, if we want the hawk option, we might not want to send the letter. So would it be better to go ahead and table this for this month and have you guys take a look at the hawk option and then decide whether that's a better approach, or come back and have us take a look at this letter in September?
And again, I'm entirely open to that. There is not a rush for this, but again, well, there have been some issues around that area that have been concerning in the Roseville area. And I think that Matt, the level of urgency being that we're going to be standing down over the summer, that was one of the reasons why we felt like it was appropriate to vote on it and create the letter at this time. I'd like to ask Matt to speak on his letter as well.
Okay, well, I'll let Matt speak. I just think that, it's more effective if we give the city one letter that tells us what we do, and not send a letter and then change our mind 2 months later. So that's
and again, this is new information that I just received today, so I was not aware of that option. And again, these are things that are constantly, new and improved ways to mitigate traffic. So go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I just want to jump in here. I appreciate that comment, Fred. And one thing that I think might be worthwhile is if we're looking at this as, you know, an option that we might like, but it seems like in the past, some of the concerns have been with these resolutions that we're drafting. You know, like, is it our job to tell the city what intervention is needed when a lot of times we need to ask them to do the design for it? So I think if it's something like this Hawk option, like we could just make a very small amendment to this letter if the board is, you know, A, generally supportive of the letter as it is, and B, supportive of an idea like that, you know, user activated crosswalk across Rosecrans. I think it could be a very simple substitution in this letter, and then we don't have to table it for a couple months before being able to bring back a safety item, you know, to just try to get this moving.
Thank you, Matt. I do agree with his comments. I feel like these letters, you know, provide our recommendations as far as what the city's able to do. That's on them. That's their job to determine if that's a viable solution. Those are my comments.
Okay, so Mandy, can you get out of the screen share? I can't really see everybody, but I think Sam has his hand up, and I'm just going to say I agree with that, and I think you guys are right on that. But you know, we you know, I could see a letter where we would say, hey, can you evaluate options for a crosswalk or potentially this Hawk crossing? And I just don't know if it's fair to all the members of the board if they haven't had a chance to think about this Hawk crosswalk before the meeting. So anyway, with that, Sam, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I just had a comment in the form of a question. I think the Hawk option is if you've ever driven up Canyon from Rosecrans, from Rosecrans, there's a Hawk. I think that thing that flashes when you cross the intersection on Canyon at Evergreen is a Hawk example.
That's an RFFB. That's a rapid firing repeating something. I can't remember the acronym, but that's an RFFB. It's not a Hawk.
Oh, it's not a Hawk? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what, that was the form of that was my question.
Okay, Paul, do you have a question or a comment?
Excuse me. Yeah, Mandy, could you send any information you have on this Hawk around to the rest of us? Because seeing it flashed up on the screen is not a real good way to evaluate it.
Sure. And again, I'd be more than happy to share that with the board. Yes.
Okay, Don, I think I saw you next.
Yeah. I like Fred's suggestion of coming back to this at a future meeting. The city has timed the lights on Rosecrans to be kind of in sequence with expensive stoplights that communicate with each other. And if some citizen can walk up and punch a Hawk button, it's going to screw all that up. And so I think there needs to be better communication here.
Sure.
Okay. Brad, do you have a comment?
Yeah, briefly, maybe. Don's point's well taken. I mean, they do have those smart lights there. I would think that if they did do a Hawk, they would have to incorporate that function in with those lights. Those lights are very, very smart. And I think that everyone here who does use Rosecrans, I don't know. I certainly, my parents live at one end and I have to take my dad to the hospital all the way down at the other. And with frequency, I mean, we hit one light on Rosecrans in that whole stretch from La Playa all the way to the freeway. So, I mean, they're working really well. And to Mandy's letter, the only objection.
Oh, you muted yourself, Brad.
Sorry about that. Thank you. The board effectively has already voted on this specific pedestrian corridor, and the city has already evaluated that location both at Rosecrans and Emerson, and Scott and Emerson has approved Scott and Emerson and is now funded for Scott and Emerson for a flashing beacon, as Sam mentioned, the RFFB. And regarding the Hawk, when Gary Pence was saying that the issue with Rosecrans is that it's 4 lanes, was also kind of an issue at Scott. And he was the one, so yeah, I see your point about us dictating, Matt. Maybe the request for your letter, Mandy, maybe would be that if they could reevaluate, since we've already sort of touched base with Gary, reevaluate the analysis that because Rosecrans did not qualify because there was not enough pedestrian crossings there. So maybe reevaluate that for safety because of maybe the neighborhood intent request. I mean, it makes sense. Roseville to the Bay, in between this big gap. I mean, this is what we tried to do 3.5 years ago, and it, you know, we don't have institutional memory to some degree. So, you know, I didn't. I saw the letter and it was like, oh, this has already been done. So anyway, that's my comments. That I think that it's great that you're refocusing on it. Let's get this done. I just don't know quite if how the process should be, or if the letter should just be really short. Just, this is what we want to do. How do we make it happen?
Right. I really do appreciate those comments. So, you know, if no one else has any objections, you know, yeah, I don't see, I'd like to make a motion to table this and just take it back to traffic, and also give time for the board to educate themselves on the Hawk mitigation. Sounds all official, the Hawk.
All right, well, I think that's a reasonable approach, Mandy. So I'm going to go ahead and table it, and I think it's a worthy issue, and I think it was a good discussion. So I appreciate it, and we'll look forward to talking about it again.
And again, thank you, Brad, for bringing that mitigation and, you know, educating me on what the board has done in the past. You know, we have quite a lot of traffic safety issues that we experience, and it's hard to keep track of them. So, well, thank you.
That's a huge problem that we're experiencing at the board level. How do you communicate with, you know, we don't know what traffic, you know, does traffic ever even get these letters, you know? And so it's hard to know when something's funded, when it's on a list, it's funded, or it's approved, but unfunded. And then having to get these items on the city budget and so they can actually get completed. Though I will say that I did find out that Voltaire and Froude's flashing beacon will be completed within the next 6 months. It's on the list to be installed.
So see, they get our letters.
So eventually. Well, after a few reminders.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, going on to the next action item, we have another approval for a committee member. This one is going to be for Leah Shapiro. She had ran in the last election, and she is already a member of our Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee. She would also like to be a community member on the Environmental Subcommittee. So we did vote for that in the environmental meeting last night. It was unanimous, and I would like to make a motion to approve her request to be a part of the environmental subcommittee as a community member.
All right, and Don, are you seconding?
Seconding.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Mandy, passes unanimously.
All right, awesome. Thank you. And then the final one we have is before the stand down, we approved, the board approved to have student liaison to be able to participate in board activities and attend meetings and kind of get an experience with community and civic. And I feel like it would be a great opportunity for the next generation to get involved. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. We have a list of requirements that we kind of voted on. One moment while I set up my screen. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. And let me just do the screen share. Okay. Yeah. All right, here we go. So this was an action item for the environmental committee, and Eva provided some more parameters for what we would do when vetting for candidates for the student liaison. And so we have determined that the environmental subcommittee chair will serve as the student liaison. We wanted to increase the participation. So again, to be equitable, we thought that it would be appropriate to have 2 students per term to participate in the subcommittee or regular board meetings. We felt that the term would run from October through May. The eligibility requirements would be any high school level student attending a school or residing in the Peninsula Community Planning Board District. We have the Point Loma High School. We also have High Tech High, but some of our students, they choice out and go to different schools, or there's a private school option. So we don't want to hinder any participation from these students. So the thought is that the applications would be due by October 1st for us to review in October. And then if more than 2 students apply, the environmental committee will select the students for board approval in October. And so the requirements that we had is that the students have at least 6 meetings during their term to be split between subcommittee and board meetings. And then at least 2 of the meetings should be those subcommittee meetings and 2 should be board meetings. Students are expected to give a presentation to the board in May about their experience. And hopefully with the completion of this, we can write maybe a letter of recommendation for these students, because that is something that's helpful with them when they go on to apply for higher education loans or schooling. So I felt like it would be helpful. In the discussion, we did have some options come up, but we wanted to present to the board the original requirements. But I did want to share 2 possible friendly amendments to add to this. And this would just help. And the first would be that the candidates have to present themselves at the September Environmental Subcommittee meeting and make an introduction, kind of give them a reason as to why they would like to run. If they do not show at that time, they will be disqualified from participating. And then the second amendment that came up as well is if more than 2 candidates remain, that a lottery system will choose those candidates rather than us going through and vetting and making our own personal choices. And the reason for that is just the transparency. We want to be open to everyone, but we don't want to give the appearance of nepotism, because there are some parents on the board who have children in that age range, and they have shown interest, but again, we do want to keep it fair. So those are 2 additions to the rules that we've created. So I'd like to go ahead. I'm going to stop. Is it okay if I stop the screen share?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. And then we'll go ahead and open it for discussion. Corla?
Yeah, thank you, Mandy. You guys have done great work. I think it's a great idea. I think something should be made, stated about them having passing grades. I can't imagine someone that's not doing well would apply for something like this, but I think they would have to have passing grades. And then also you guys would have to work with counseling, and I don't know, my dog's been out of high school for a long time. So do the kids still do exit portfolios and have volunteer requirements? We want to be sure if they're going to do this, that it would go towards that requirement for their graduation, if that's still a requirement. And then my comment is that the October to May, as part of the civics lesson might possibly be that we have elections in March. So there's like a carryover. So whoever's the chair of the committee, whoever the new person is, might not particularly want to carry that over. If do you see that as an issue at all, or do you think that we should do like October to March? We can't start until October because of their school year, but our thing is till March. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yes, I do.
Maybe we should, you know, have it end during our ending period.
Well, my thought is that it actually is more consistent for them. I mean, they get to see the board election and the turnover. I don't know. I think the whole year is actually a fuller experience, and then they can encourage people in the grade behind them to apply for the next year. But that's just my 2 cents.
That's an excellent point, Fred. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, Mandy's already been elected too recently, so likely she's going to continue on as chair of environmental. So consistency would still be there through the school year, right?
Yes, at this point until our next election, and we would, you know.
Well, right, but you're probably going to ask to be environmental chair again, potentially.
Yeah, I don't have any desire to step down from that.
Yeah, well,
but again, I think giving them that experience of the elections, they are not eligible to vote. They are just participating. They can make comments. But I really think even just seeing the electioneering process and how that would be an experience. I mean, that's an experience for any of us every year. And I think that would be a great civic lesson. I do like with the mentoring of that letter of support, I think would be sufficient. I saw Angela shaking her head. Maybe she would want to speak. Do you know if that is a requirement for volunteer?
No, it isn't any longer. So they're in Point Loma High. I don't know what it is at the private schools, but there's no longer any exit interviews like they used to do, or volunteer requirements.
My other comment was I would just keep it as simple as possible when you start. And I mean, I don't really like the hard deadline for the application, but I mean, I'd keep it as simple as and let's get it started and see how it works, and then you can always modify it when it goes down the road. But Don, I thought
this is a wonderful proposal. Keep it simple. Keep it the whole school year. Your challenge is going to be to get the word out to the students.
Yes, right. And I do have connections with the student body president as well as the San Diego Unified School Liaison. They have, you can contact them to distribute like programs that the school children would be interested in. And I think the reason why it's important that I'd like to see it approved tonight is because our board does stand down until September. School returns at the end of August. And again, this would just be an incredible community opportunity for all of us. I really am excited about it, and I look forward to it. And hopefully if it's a success and we have a great, experience, that we can expand it and build upon it for future years.
So Mandy, maybe you should make a motion then.
Brad, do you have something to say?
I just wanted to reinforce. Is that okay? Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce that this is what you're doing. The committee's great. And I look at it as that maybe this can provide some much needed new blood, younger people, and a different, a much needed different perspective from those of us that are here, especially in the environmental committee, because they're going to be dealing with what we are doing and have done. And it would be very refreshing to hear their perspective on what they think is important. So this has, it may trickle down to more interest on the board as a whole, than not just the environmental committee. So I think it's great. Good job.
So Brad, why don't you make a motion?
Oh, well, Don,
I make a motion.
Don't forget, approve. We have a major charter high school in our community. High Tech High.
Oh yeah, no, and again, we will reach out to all of those schools as well, in the boundary, and then utilize next door social media to, and maybe even reach out to Dave Schwab at the Beacon. Maybe they'll be, given us some free advertisement about this opportunity. So I'll be sure to make sure that if this is approved, that we do our due diligence and promote this throughout the community and let everyone know that this is an opportunity that they may be interested in.
The beacon is a really good idea. I like it.
Yeah. Point Loma High School has an email blast that they send out to every single person. So I would be able to get it on there.
Awesome.
So
all right. Well,
it will get out there. The word will get out there.
Well, I would like to make a motion to approve the liaison requirements along with the friendly amendments so that we can establish a student liaison, 2 student liaisons for the board.
Okay, could I get a second? I'm gonna let Angela second that.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? As far as I can tell, that is unanimous there, Mandy.
Yay.
No, it's an exciting project and a real give back to the community and the younger generation. So it's this wonderful thing. Great job.
For sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support.
Not to be fussy, but since it's going out to schools and kids and stuff, when you add your 2 amendments, there's a couple of typos in this if you're going to cut and paste. So,
I'll be sure to modify.
Yeah, there's capitalizations and periods. Yeah. The editor Don Severance probably noted that.
I'll be sure to spell check it.
Just checking. We want to look good.
All right. As we run down to the final part of the meeting here, I do want to note that if you're following the chat, that it warms my heart to see that Matt and Angela are going to ride their bikes together to go see one of those Hawks. So that's the kind of stuff that makes me very happy about our planning board, and I hope you two have a good time.
Well, anyone who's interested should jump on this ride.
I'll go.
There we go. Don't get more than 8 or we'll have a brown light.
Okay, fair enough. 7 or less interested people should come.
Okay, good. All right, so the only thing I have left is, are there any committees that want to make a report that haven't talked tonight or won't have anything to add? Go ahead, Maddie.
The only thing I have to say is again, the traffic and transportation, Carrie Pence did reach out and state that Voltaire and Warden, there is going to be an all-way stop installed at that location. And I believe that will be a great benefit to the community. There's been a lot of accidents at that location in particular. So many. Just wanted to share that with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else that anybody wants to share?
I just want to say one thing is thank you, Cole, for staying through the whole meeting. Yeah. We appreciate that.
I hope you didn't scare poor Cole.
Okay.
Thank
Good job. All right. Anybody else? All right. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
There we go. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you. Everybody enjoy your August, and I look forward to seeing you in September.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.